Hey guys, and welcome to our Windows Virtual Desktop video tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to explain you how you set up your Windows Virtual Desktop environment, and we cover the following topics. In our agenda, we will have in part 1 the Windows Virtual Desktop infrastructure and pricing. In part 2, we will cover building up the Windows Virtual Desktop domain controller and Active Directory Connect. Then we will cover host pool deployment in part 3. FS Logics on Azure Files in part 4. So let's start with part 1, Windows Virtual Desktop infrastructure and pricing. Before we start with the pricing calculator, we will have a look at our options that we can choose of. So if we use the hybrid organization connection, we can use what you can see on the right corner, the Windows Active Directory on a Windows server on premises. That one can connect to AD Connect, and we can replicate the Active Directory via VPN to our domain controller that's running in Azure, and that's hosting the Windows Virtual Desktop host. The second option is, again, a hybrid organization. And what we will do in this example, we have the Windows Server Active Directory on-premise server, and we again connect to Azure Active Directory Connect. And we provide the connectivity via VNet or VPN Express route. So in this example, we don't run the server directly in Azure, but we run it in on-premise. Option 3 is the hybrid organization transition to cloud. And what we do there is we transition the on-premise AD with AD Connect to Azure Active Directory and sync everything to the Azure Active Directory domain services. And we connect our host pools, the session hosts, to the AD Active Directory domain services. Then option 4 is the complete cloud organization, where we don't have anything left in on-premises. There we run the controller, the domain controller in Azure, and we connect our session host to this domain controller. And we use Azure Active Directory Connect to synchronize our AD and users groups to Azure Active Directory. Then the fifth option is the hybrid organization transitioning to cloud, where we use the Windows Server Active Directory on-premise and sync all the data with Azure AD Connect to Azure Active Directory, sync it again to Azure Active Directory domain services, and then we connect the hosts to Azure Active Directory domain services. What we will use in our scenario is we run the identity option 4. This is running completely in cloud, and this is by far the most cheapest option we can use. And we run everything in Azure. So, but we cover this later, and I show you why this is the best option for us. So from here on, we jump to the pricing calculator. And there we have some options here that we can use. I will show you how we provision Windows Virtual Desktop for 25 users. So we're running this Windows Virtual Desktop domain controller in Azure, like in our example number 4. And as region, we choose West Europe. So make sure you use the same region for the complete setup, because we want to avoid some costs of outgoing data from Azure to another region, because this is causing money, because data will leave the data centers and will go to another data center, and this will cost. What we have here, we're using Windows Server operating system, and we use as an instance the B machines. The B machines have a few advantages over the other ones. They run, they are pretty cheap, and the Windows license is pretty cheap too. So if you compare this instance, the B instances, to the other ones, you can see there's a 50-50 price for the operating system and the infrastructure. If you run a B machine, you can see the Windows license, and this is a full Windows Server license, is pretty cheap. So if we uncheck the Windows here, you can see the Windows operating system, the Windows Server operating system, will cost us around €5 a month. So this is pretty cheap compared to other instances. And to be honest, the B machine with 2 cores and 4 GB of RAM this can easily handle this 25 user setup. So nothing will be done there without, I mean, there's only the authentication of the users and the host pool on the domain controller side and the AD that's running there. So it will have nothing to do than this. And I think this setup will be pretty okay for this. And if you compare the price, we saw in our intro that there is the other option that we can use, Azure Active Directory Domain Services. Azure Active Directory Domain Services are pretty like a domain controller running in Azure, but it's running as a service. So we are not able to customize it any more than we can do on the on a normal, let's see, a standard Active Directory domain server. And we can't lower the cost. So it will cost at least a little bit more than 90 euros a month, and you cannot lower this. So if we use a standard server with a full Windows Server license on this, you can see the price is pretty cheap regarding if you compare it to the Azure Active Directory domain services. And we go, because this domain service will run 24/7, we go with the reserved instances for 1 year. So we save 42%. So if we uncheck this and we run this with 730 hours a month, we will be much cheaper if we check this one for the reserved instances and take the advantage of this, because this is running 24/7. So we check this. For the managed disk, we choose a premium SSD to get an SLA of 99.9%. We don't get this SLA if we choose something lower than this, like standard SSD or HDD. But you can use standard HDD if you want. So this will lower the cost for, I think, around 14 euros. Let's check this. It's the 120 gigabyte one. It will be around for 5 euros. And if we check again the premium SSD with no extra cost for transactions, this will cost us around 18. So the difference is more or less 13 euros a month. But you should choose the premium SSD. So, but you can for sure save some money if you go with the HDD one. But you lose the SLA. Then we have the host pool that we connect to the domain services or to Azure Active Directory. And therefore, we have to make sure that we use first the same region, and we have to use an instance that will fit for all of our users. So what we will do in this example, Microsoft tells us that there's for normal Office apps like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and let's say some legacy apps, you can put 2 users on 1 vCPU. So if we have 25 users, we want to make sure that we cover all the users with the CPUs. And we have to think about how many users do we need in the off-business hours, because we have one of these host pool servers running 24/7, and the other ones are only to business hours. Why are we going to do this? Because we save a lot of money if we shut down these servers if we don't need them. So in every organization, most employees are working from 8 to 18 o'clock. So this is 10 hours a day. So that makes it 220 hours a week. So if we shut down the VMs, when they are needed, we save a lot of money there. As an operation system, we choose Linux here because we don't want to pay for a Windows server, because we are running client operation system that is Windows 10 multi-session, and this is the 2004 version. So the 2004 build. And the license comes with the Microsoft 365 Business or the Microsoft 365 E3 plan. So in this example, we choose this machine, this instance, and we have 4 vCPUs. So we can use, if we go the way Microsoft tells us, we can put 2 users on 1 vCPU. Then we can put 8 users here on this one that's running 24/7. So if you combine it roughly, then we have let's say we have 5 users that are using the hosts or the session hosts of business hours, then this one would fit. But you can go here, and if you know that it's more or it's less, you can adjust the instance size. But make sure that you use the same instance on the host pool that's running 24/7 for the host pool that's running only to business hours, because you can only choose one option. You can only use one instance. Okay. And another thing is, if we run it 24/7, then make sure you check the reserved instance again, and you will save 41% discount here. So if you don't check this and run it for 720 hours a month, then you would pay 140 euros. If you check the 1 year reserved instance, then you will drop the price down to 83 euros a month. And you can pay it monthly. This is no problem. Again, we choose premium SSDs because we want to have a nice experience for the users. So give them maximum speed, and don't deal with the transactions that would be incoming if you don't choose the premium SSDs like standard SSD or HDDs. So we choose one of the disks here, and we add a snapshot. Why do we add a snapshot here? Because if we set up our host pool, the first thing we want to do is we start everything up. Then we add our language packs, because if we deploy anything in Azure, then it will be standard in English, and there will be the time zone from the area you deploy the VMs in. You can download the language packs, set the time zone, install all the apps you want to run there, and you want to have them on the VM without using an MSIX app attach, like the Office Suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, what else? And then you can go there, and you can just sysprep the image, generalize it, and take a snapshot. You can do that here. If you go on one of the machines, you can see here the capture. So if you click here, you can download one of the images with the operating system, everything on it you want to have as a master image or a golden image, and you can save it on your images. So you can easily use this one. If you deploy from the host pool, you deploy a new machine, then you can use this image. So therefore we go with the snapshot. And be sure that you check that you put in the snapshot size in here. It's another 16 euros a month roughly. So that's pretty fine here. Then there's the host pool, and for the business hours only. And if we talk about 25 to 30 users, this should really fit, because as far as you mentioned already, it's 8 users per one machine. We have 3 machines here, so it's 24 machines, 24 users with this one. We can cover this 24 one with these, and with the other one we can cover 8 too. So 25 to 30 users would be really fine here. Be sure to set the working hours to 220. This is roughly 10 hours a day without the weekends and off business hours. And be sure to check pay-as-you-go. You can see if you run these machines, 3 of them for 220 hours, it's roughly 128 euros a month. Plus the 3 the managed disks, premium SSDs. And we have the cost for the complete host pool here. Additionally, we put in the storage accounts, and the storage account, we use file storage, Azure Files, and we use the premium tier because it's really fast and reliable. So what are we doing with this? Later, we putting Azure Files in place, and Azure Files, not Azure Files, but FSLogix. And FSLogix is storing the user profiles on a share. So the user profiles won't be stored on the machines, but will be stored then on the storage account. Why are we doing this? Because the storage account is really fast, and you don't have to mess with storage accounts on the machines. That will put some extra load there, that will put some artifacts there that you have to clean up, and we don't want to have them there. And remember, we have a few machines, and if a user connects to machine 1 and shuts it down and connects again to the pool and will be moved to machine 2 or 3 or 4, then a new profile would be created for the user every time. So you could do that, but you have to make sure that you sync the user data. But to be honest, this is not a really good way to do that. So what FSLogix does is it roams the user profile and adds it to the machine that is used. So in this example, we use 5 GB of user data of the user profile for every user. That makes it 125 GB. And we take a snapshot of this to make sure our user profiles are really safe. That will put another 17 euros in here. Then we have to talk about bandwidth. And that's the data that leaves the data centers. So as you know, it doesn't cost you any money if you send data to Azure, but if you put data out of Azure, it will cost you money. So what we did, for 25 users, we roughly estimated about 10 GB of data that user will download a month. Depends on the scenario you will use that. You can put a higher sum in here, or you can lower that value. I think 10 GB is pretty fair, and we should, if there's another thing, if there's a lot of data that you will download out of Azure, you can put in a higher value. So this is something that's 10 GB should be really good for a normal scenario. The next thing is Azure Backup, and what we back up here is only the domain controller, because the session host will we don't need really to back up this ones, because the user profiles will be stored externally in the storage account and doesn't touch the VMs. And if we have our golden image, then we're pretty fine to boot up from the golden image again. So this golden image is already backed up over there. You can see that over here where we made the snapshot of our data in the storage accounts. This one. So we're pretty fine with this. So we only go with the one VM, that's the domain controller, to make sure if something happens, we can recover that. Make sure you set the average daily data churn to low, because it's a domain controller, and a domain controller, if there's no big changes on this one, this might be some megabytes or something. So make sure you check the low here, because there's not much data that will change on the domain controller, unless you really change some big things on there. Last but not least, we put in the Azure Defender. And why are we doing this? Because we don't want to use a jump host in front of the domain controller. We can do that, but we have to pay another. We have to put on another machine that will run the Windows server, and you have to pay for the server and for the license for that. We can do that, but in my opinion, it's better to use Azure Defender, because we can use just-in-time connection. Azure Defender is the new Azure Security Center, so you can use just-in-time connection and make sure that your server port 3389 TCP will be locked down with just-in-time connections. So you can use the public IP address of the server if you want. Just jump into the portal. And you don't have to mess with the NSGs. You can just use just-in-time there, and then you can set who can access the server from which location, from which IP address, and how long this ports will be open for this customer, and for this user that is doing some adjustments on the server. So just use this one. It's cheaper than running a second machine than like a jump host or that, and you're pretty sure that nobody can take over the server. So this is at the end we have the estimated upfront cost and the monthly cost for the machines, and this is roughly 440 euros. So this means if we open up the calculator and we count 25 users, we have 440 euros. Divide that to the amount of users you will have, and this is roughly 17 euros or 18 euros a month per user, plus the license that we use for Windows 10 Enterprise that's coming with Microsoft 365 business or the enterprise plans, E3, E5. So this is roughly 35 to 40 euros per user per month for this environment that we deploy. That's pretty cheap. And there's a lot of security in there. If you choose the M365, there's conditional access in there. There's Azure Active Directory. There's the premium plans in there. There's the Office in there, and there's the Windows 10 Enterprise in there. So this is a really good package, and you can count from 35 to 40 euros per user in this option. So in the next video, we will cover the creation of the domain controller in Azure, and I hope to see you back there.